Chapter 13, The Very Secret Diary. And for some reason, there's a Cupid slash T-Pain man. We'll find out why, I guess. Hermione remained in the hospital wing for several weeks. Remember, Hermione took the Polyjuice potion and she accidentally mixed it with cat hair. So she looked like a cat human. And because she did the potion wrong, it doesn't wear off right away. So she had to go to the hospital wing for several weeks, which they skip over that part in the movie. There was a flurry of rumor about her disappearance when the rest of the school arrived back from their Christmas holidays, because of course everyone thought that she had been attacked. So many students filed past the hospital wing trying to catch a glimpse of her that Madame Pomfrey took out her curtains again and placed them around Hermione's bed to spare her the shame of being seen with a furry face. Harry and Ron went to visit her every evening. What good friends. That's really good friends. In real life, you'll be lucky if your friends visit you even once in the hospital. But, you know, conveniently the hospital is at their school, so that does help. When the new term started, they brought her each day's homework. If I'd sprouted whiskers, I'd take a break from work, said Ron, tipping a stack of books onto Hermione's bedside table one evening. Don't be silly, Ron. I've got to keep up, said Hermione briskly. Her spirits were greatly improved by the fact that all the hair had gone from her face and her eyes were turning slowly back to brown. I don't suppose you've got any new leads, she added in a whisper so that Madame Pomfrey couldn't hear her. Nothing, said Harry gloomily. I was so sure it was Malfoy, said Ron for about the 100th time. What's that? Asked Harry, pointing to something gold sticking out from under Hermione's pillow. Just a get-well card, said Hermione hastily, trying to poke it out of sight, but Ron was too quick for her. He pulled it out, flicked it open, and read aloud. To Miss Granger, wishing you a speedy recovery from your concerned teacher,
I require
Professor
your
Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League, and 5 times winner of Witches Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. Oh, thank you, Hollywood, for the follow. And you are in Slytherin. Ron looked up at Hermione, disgusted. You sleep with this under your pillow? But Hermione was spared answering by Madame Pomfrey sweeping over with her evening dose of medicine. Is Lockhart the swarmiest bloke you've ever met, or what? Ron said to Harry as they left the dormitory and started up the stairs towards Gryffindor Tower. Snape had given them so much homework. Harry thought he was likely to be in 6th year before he finished it. Ron was just saying he'd wished he had asked Hermione how many rat tails was supposed to be added to the hair-rising potion when an angry outburst from the floor above reached their ears. That's Filch, Harry muttered as they hurried upstairs and paused out of sight, listening hard. You don't think someone else has been attacked? Said Ron tensely. They stood still, their heads inclined towards Filch's voice, which sounded quite hysterical. Even more work for me! Mopping all night like I haven't enough to do! No, this is the final straw! I'm going to Dumbledore! His footsteps receded and they heard a distant door slam. They poked their heads around the corner. Filch had clearly been manning his usual lookout post. They were once again on the spot where Mrs. Norris had been attacked. They saw at last a glance what Filch had been shouting about. A great flood of water stretched over half the corridor, and it looked as though it was still seeping from under the door of Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Now Filch had stopped shouting. They could hear Myrtle's wails echoing off the bathroom walls. Now what's up with her? Said Ron. Let's go and see, said Harry. Holding their robes over their ankles, they stepped through the great wash of water to the door bearing its out-of-order sign, ignored it as always, and entered. Moaning Myrtle was crying, if possible louder and harder than ever before. She seemed to be hiding down her usual toilet. It was dark in the bathroom because the candles had been extinguished in a great rush of water that had left both walls and floor soaking wet. "What's up, Myrtle?" said Harry. "Who's that?" glugged Myrtle miserably. "Come to throw something else at me?" Harry waded across to her cubicle and said, "Why would I throw something at you?" "Don't ask me!" Myrtle shouted, emerging with a wave of yet more water which splashed onto the already sopping floor. "Here I am, minding my own business, and someone thinks it's funny to throw a book at me." "But it can't hurt you if someone throws something at you," said Harry reasonably. "I mean, it'd just go right through you, wouldn't it?" He had said the wrong thing. In the movie, Ron says that. Myrtle puffed herself up and shrieked, "Let's all throw books at Myrtle because she can't feel it! 10 points if you get it through her stomach! 50 points if it goes through her head! Well, ha ha ha! What a lovely game, I don't think!" "Who threw it at you anyway?" asked Harry. "I don't know. I was just sitting in the U-bend thinking about death, and it fell right through the top of my head," said Myrtle, glaring at them. "It's over there. It got washed out." Harry and Ron looked under the sink where Myrtle was pointing. A small, thin book lay there. It had a shabby black cover and was as wet as everything else in the bathroom. Harry stepped forward to pick it up, but Ron suddenly flung out an arm to hold him back. "What?" said Harry. "Are you mad?" said Ron. "It could be dangerous." "Dangerous?" said Harry, laughing. "Come off it. How could it be dangerous?" "You'd be surprised," said Ron, who was looking apprehensively at the book. "Some of the books the ministry's confiscated. Dad's told me there was one that burned your eyes out, and everyone who read Sonnets of a Sorcerer spoke in limericks for the rest of their lives." That would be kind of fun. "And some old witch in Bath had a book that you could never stop reading. You just had to wander around with your nose in it, trying to do everything one-handed. And, all right, I've got the point," said Harry. The little book lay on the floor, nondescript and soggy. "Also, I watch a show pretty avidly called Supernatural, and so I also would be afraid of a book like that because it's probably cursed." At least that's something I learned from Sam and Dean. Again, I think that hair is back trying to get caught on my lip. That's annoying. "Well, we won't find out unless we look at it," he said, and ducked around Ron and picked it up off the floor. "Harry, no discretion." Harry saw at once that it was a diary, and the faded year on the cover told him it was 50 years old. He opened it eagerly. On the first page, he could just make out the name, T.M. Riddle, in smudged ink. For those of you who have seen the movies and read the books, I just remember first reading this book, and I read the books when I was a kid, so this was before the movies even came out. And I remember reading this and just like having no idea who T.M. Riddle is, and just being like, interesting, how curious, where could this book come from? I really remember that, and just, it's so crazy when you realize what happens. But you're like, there was a time in my life I didn't even know that, and I was just reading this book just like, oh, who's this T.M. Riddle person? They seem cool. Yeah, good times. "Hang on," said Ron, who approached cautiously and was looking over Harry's shoulder. "I know that name. T.M. Riddle got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago." "How on earth do you know that?" said Harry in amazement. "Because Filch made me polish his shield about 50 times in detention," said Ron resentfully. "That was the one I burped slugs all over. If you'd wiped slime off a name for an hour, you'd remember it too." Harry peeled the wet pages apart. They were completely blank. There wasn't the faintest trace of writing on any of them. Not even Auntie Mabel's birthday or dentist 3:30. He never wrote in it, said Harry, disappointed. I wonder why someone wanted to flush it away, said Ron, curiously. Harry turned to the back cover of the book and saw the printed name of a newsagent in Vauxhall Road, London. He must have been Muggle-born, said Harry thoughtfully, to have bought a diary from Vauxhall Road. Is that how they say diary? Ah! Stream Elements has timed out Hollywood. Oh, I'm sorry, Hollywood, that you got timed out by my mod. It didn't even give me a chance to see or approve or deny the message, which it's supposed to do. So I apologize for that. Jeez. Gosh, Stream Elements. Alright, well, I can't do anything to change that during the stream, unfortunately. But I'll make a note to look on that after the stream, because that's really, really frustrating to me. I mean, there's certain things that the mod catches and looks for to keep the stream a friendly place, but you know, sometimes it catches things that aren't even bad, and that's really frustrating to me, especially if it just goes ahead and decides that it's going to time you out. Like, that's my decision, not your decision. You are a bot. You're not a actual moderator. You don't get to just time people out. The job of the bot is to say, hey, this message has this word in it, will you allow it or deny it? That's what I want my bot to do. I don't want my bot to just automatically time people out. That's really annoying. So, I don't know, is that a Stream Elements thing? Because that was not in the settings. Nowhere in the settings did it say it's going to time people out automatically. In fact, I have it set so that it's very light. So it's, I don't know why it's doing that. I'm going to have to contact Stream Elements. Anyway, that makes me really angry, because that's just not even acceptable. I don't even care what you said. You could have said the most horrible thing on planet Earth. But I don't want some robot banning or timing out somebody of its own accord. What is this? Robots taking over planet Earth. Come on. Have you checked the blacklist settings on Stream Elements? I'm not even sure if I know what that is. Let me see. I will actually take a look at it really quick, since you are here. It sounds like you possibly know something about it, Kurusu. So let's see. Chat stats, no. Modules. That doesn't seem right. Modules. Chat commands. No. User management. Spam filters? I don't know. Where do we even find this? Banned words. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like the only setting I have on is called banned words. Removes messages with banned phrases and patterns. And the banned words are a set of like 10 words that I put on there. Well, Hollywood, if you're still watching, you could send me a whisper, I think. I think that's allowed. Test it out, see if it lets you send me a whisper, and tell me what it was you were trying to say so I know what kind of error we're facing here. But, yeah. yeah, see, I have specific words that I have banned, but it says this is what it's supposed to do. This is what it says exactly. Removes messages with banned phrases and patterns. That is completely different from timing out a user who uses a banned phrase. That is two totally different things. Remove it and time it out. Those are two different things. So I don't know. I guess I can just turn it off for now. I'm going to turn it off for now, and then hopefully that solves the problem. It does the same thing with whispering? That's weird. Yeah. Well, sorry about that. That makes me so frustrated. I'll have to look into seeing if I can find some sort of better system in the future. I don't know. It just makes me mad, because if they're going to time somebody out, they should have that somewhere in the settings. It should say, like, time out a user, and then I can choose to select that or not, and I would not select that, because it should be my choice, not a computer's choice. Anyway. Man, that's just frustrating. I feel bad because I don't even know what you were saying. So that's just not helpful to anyone, because if you were saying something good, that was fine. Now I don't have that information to know what I need to fix in the settings, because it just automatically deleted it. And then if you said something bad, then I don't even know what it was, so that doesn't help me. So I literally have no information or control over the chat when that thing's on, so I guess I'm not going to use that anymore. That's just not even a good program. Anyway, yeah, so we're reading about T.M. Riddle. Stream elements, if you're watching, fix your shit. What? Just kidding. No, seriously, do it. Alright. Okay, so this Harry was guessing that this person is probably Muggle-born because of the place where they bought the diary. And I was about to ask, how do you say diary in a British accent? Do they just say diary? Or is it like some other diary? I don't know. Diary? Diary? I don't know. I don't know how they say it in a British accent. Anyway. Well, it's not much use to you, said Ron. He dropped his voice. 50 points if you can get it through Myrtle's nose. Harry, however, pocketed it. Hermione left the hospital wing, de-whiskered, tailless, and fur-free at the beginning of February. On her first evening back in Gryffindor Tower, Harry showed her T.M. Riddle's diary and told her the story of how they had found it. When you read these, don't you look back and be like, wow, they were so young and naive. He just, like, finds this diary and he's like, oh, I'm just gonna take this diary. Not thinking about why is this diary just being thrown randomly at a ghost in a bathroom? Why is it empty? Who is this person? Not even thinking to, like, report it. Like, don't they have a lost and found or something? And there's no communication between Harry and Dumbledore in these early books, which is so disappointing on Dumbledore's part when you see the future, what happens, and you realize Dumbledore was actually aware the whole time of everything happening all the time ever, and just, like, kind of didn't interfere. Kind of reminds me of, like, God. Like a God figure, you know? Like, there's this mystical godhead that can see and knows everything, but then chooses not to interfere, even though they could have, like, helped a lot of things from happening that were bad, and you're like, why didn't you? And then their answer is usually like, because I wanted you to learn this lesson or something. Oh, thanks a lot, Dumbledore. I'm just letting us learn everything the hard way. But it did make for a better story. Dumbledore's a creepy spy. Okay. So Hermione finally is leaving the hospital wing. and Harry's going to show her the diary. So, Harry showed her T.M. Riddle's diary and told her the story of how they'd found it. Ooh, it might have hidden powers, said Hermione enthusiastically, taking the diary and looking at it closely. If it has, it's hiding them very well, said Ron. Maybe it's shy. I don't know why you don't chuck it, Harry. I wish I knew why someone did try to chuck it, said Harry. I wouldn't mind knowing how Riddle got an award for special services to Hogwarts, either. Could have been anything, said Ron. Maybe he's got 30 owls, or saved a teacher from a giant squid. Maybe he murdered Myrtle. That would have done everyone a favor. I never knew that line was in there. Keep that line in mind in the future. But Harry could tell from the arrested look on Hermione's face that she was thinking what he was thinking. What? Said Ron, looking from one to the other. Well, the Chamber of Secrets was opened 50 years ago, wasn't it? He said. That's what Malfoy said. Yeah, said Ron slowly. And this diary is 50 years old, said Hermione, tapping it excitedly. So? Oh, Ron, wake up, snapped Hermione. We know the person who opened the chamber last time was expelled 50 years ago. We know T.M. Riddle got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago. Well, what if Riddle got a special award for catching the heir of Slytherin? His diary would probably tell us everything, where the chamber is, how to open it, what sort of creature lives in it. The person who's behind the attacks this time wouldn't want that lying around, would they? That's a brilliant theory, Hermione, said Ron. With just one tiny little flaw. There's nothing written in the diary. But Hermione was pulling her wand out of a bag. It might be invisible ink, she whispered. She tapped the diary 3 times and said, Apasium. Nothing happened. Undaunted, Hermione shoved her hand back into her bag and pulled out what appeared to be a bright eraser. Oh no, lag. Lag. Do you guys have lag? Okay. I'm gonna continue. It seems like the lag is finished. Alright. Undaunted, Hermione shoved her hand back into the bag and pulled out what appeared to be a bright red eraser. It's a revealer. I got it in Diagon Alley, she said. She rubbed hard on January the 1st. Nothing happened. I'm telling you, there's nothing to find in there, said Ron. Riddle just got a diary from Christmas and couldn't be bothered filling it in. Harry couldn't explain, even to himself, why he didn't just throw Riddle's diary away. The fact was that even though he knew the diary was blank, he kept absent-mindedly picking it up and turning the pages, as though it was a story he wanted to finish. And while Harry was sure he had never heard the name T.M. Riddle before, it still seemed to mean something to him. Okay, good. Thanks, Happy Slappy. Almost as though Riddle was a friend he'd had when he was very small and half forgotten. But this was absurd. He'd never had friends before Hogwarts. It's hard to keep your mouth shut when you've read all of them and you know what's going to happen. But in theory, there might be some people who haven't read the books. He never had friends before Hogwarts. Dudley had made sure of that. Nevertheless, Harry was determined to find out more about Riddle, so next day at break he headed for the trophy room to examine Riddle's special award, accompanied by an interested Hermione and a thoroughly unconvinced Ron, who told them he'd seen enough of the trophy room to last him a lifetime. Riddle's burnished gold shield was tucked away in a corner cabinet. It didn't carry details of why it had been given to him. Good thing, too. Or it'd be bigger, and I'd still be polishing it, said Ron. However, they did find Riddle's name on an old medal for magical merit and on a list of old head boys. Sounds like Percy, said Ron, wrinkling his nose in disgust. Oh, Ron, you have no idea how true that is. Prefect, head boy, probably top of every class. You say that like it's a bad thing, said Hermione, in a slightly hurt voice. The sun had now begun to shine weakly on Hogwarts again. Inside the castle, the mood had grown more hopeful. There had been no more attacks since those on Justin and nearly headless Nick, and Madame Pomfrey was pleased to report that the mandrakes were becoming moody and secretive, meaning that they were very fast leaving childhood. The moment their acne clears up, they'll be ready for repotting again, Harry heard her telling Filch kindly one afternoon. And after that, it won't be long until we're cutting them up and stewing them. Oh, that sounds terrible. You'll have Mrs. Norris back in no time. Hello, what's up, laddie boy? Perhaps the heir of Slytherin had lost his or her nerve, thought Harry. It must be getting riskier and riskier to open the Chamber of Secrets with the school so alert and suspicious. Perhaps the monster, whatever it was now even settling itself down to hibernate for another 50 years. Ernie Macmillan of Hufflepuff didn't take this cheerful view. He was still convinced that Harry was the guilty one. And I just realized after all this time that our music is no longer playing in the background, so I'm going to start that over. Okay. Ernie was convinced that Harry was the guilty one, that he had given himself away at the dueling club. Peeves wasn't helping matters. He kept popping up in the crowded corridors, singing, "Oh, Potter, you rotter, now with a dance routine to match." Oh wait, that part was not actually Peeves saying it. That was just details that Peeves had a dance routine to match it. Gilderoy Lockhart seemed to think he himself had made the attack stop. Harry overheard him telling Professor McGonagall, so while the Gryffindors were lining up for transfiguration. "I don't think there'll be any more trouble, Minerva," he said, tapping his nose knowingly and winking. "I think the chamber has been locked for good this time. The culprit must have known it was only a matter of time before I caught them. Rather sensible to stop now, before I came down hard on them. You know what the school needs now is a morale booster. Wash away the memories of last term. I won't say any more just now, but I think I know just the thing." He tapped his nose again and strode off. Lockhart's idea of a moral booster became clear at breakfast time on February the 14th. Ooh. Harry hadn't had much sleep because of a late running Quidditch practice the night before, and he hurried down to the Great Hall slightly late. He thought for a moment that he'd walked through the wrong doors. The walls were all covered with large, lurid pink flowers. Worse still, heart-shaped confetti was falling from the pale blue ceiling. Come on, Harry, I know you're a boy, but what's wrong with hearts? What's wrong with confetti? Confetti is nice, I like it. The walls were all... Harry walked over to the Gryffindor table, where Ron was sitting looking sickened, and Hermione seemed to have come over rather giggly. "What's going on?" Harry asked them, sitting down and wiping confetti off his bacon. Oh, that could get annoying. I don't want confetti on my bacon. Ron pointed to the teacher's table, apparently too disgusted to speak. Lockhart, wearing lurid pink robes to match the decorations, was waving for silence. The teachers on either side of him were looking stony-faced. From where he sat, Harry could see a muscle going in Professor McGonagall's cheek. Snape looked as though someone had just fed him a large beaker of Skelegro, which we know from Harry's experience is disgusting. "Happy Valentine's Day!" Lockhart shouted, and may I thank the 46 people who have sent me cards so far. Yes, I have taken the liberty of arranging this little surprise for you all, and it doesn't end here. Lockhart clapped his hands, and through the doors to the entrance hall marched a dozen surly-looking dwarfs. Not just any dwarfs, however. Lockhart had them all wearing golden wigs and carrying harps. My friendly card-carrying cupids, beamed Lockhart. They will be roving around the school today delivering your valentines, and the fun doesn't stop here. I'm sure my colleagues will want to enter into the spirit of the occasion. Why not ask Professor Snape to show you how to whip up a love potion? That sounds like something Snape would do. Not. And while you're at it, Professor Flitwick knows more about entrancing enchantments than any wizard I've ever met, you sly old dog. Professor Flitwick buried his face in his hands. Snape was looking through as though the first person to ask him for a love potion would be forced. Poison. Please, Hermione, tell me you weren't one of the 46, said Ron. As they left the Great Hall for the first lesson, Hermione suddenly became very interested in searching her bag for her timetable and did not answer. All day long, the dwarfs kept barging into the classrooms to deliver valentines, to the annoyance of the teachers. And late that afternoon, as the Gryffindors were walking upstairs for charms, one of them caught up with Harry. Oi, you, Harry Potter! Shouted a particularly grim-looking dwarf, elbowing people out of the way to get to Harry. Hot all over at the thought of being given a valentine in front of a queue of first years, which happened to include Ginny Weasley, Harry tried to escape. The dwarf, however, cut his way through the crowd by kicking people's shins and reached him before he'd gone 2 paces. I've got a musical message to deliver to Harry Potter in person, he said, twanging his harp in a threatening sort of way. Not here, Harry hissed, trying to escape. Stay still, grunted the dwarf, grabbing hold of Harry's bag and pulling him back. Let me go, Harry snarled, tugging with a loud, ripping noise. His bag split in two. His books, wand, parchment, and quill spilled onto the floor, and his ink bottle smashed all over the lot. You can see his ink got all over my book as well. Don't know why he's using orange ink. That's kind of weird. Or does it come out black? I don't know. I've never used ink. I've never used a quill either. Harry scrambled around trying to pick it all up before the dwarf started singing, causing something of a hold-up in the corridor. What's going on here? Came the cold, drawling voice of Draco Malfoy. Harry started stuffing everything feverishly into his ripped bag, desperate to get away before Malfoy could hear his musical valentine. What's all this commotion? Said another familiar voice as Percy Weasley arrived. Losing his head, Harry tried to make a run for it, but the dwarf seized him around the knees and brought him crashing to the floor. Right, he said, sitting on Harry's ankle. Here's your singing valentine. His eyes are green as fresh pickled toad. His hair is as dark as a blackboard. I wish he was mine. He's really divine. The hero who conquered the Dark Lord. Harry would have given all the gold and Gringotts to evaporate on the spot. I don't even remember this part of the story. Like... dwarf singing. Yeah. This wasn't in the movie, so I guess I read the book a long time ago and I didn't even remember this part and they didn't even get to the movie, which would have been pretty funny if it was in the movie. Anyway, Harry would have given all the gold and Gringotts to evaporate on the spot, trying valiantly to laugh along with everyone else. He got up, his feet numb from the weight of the dwarf. Oh my gosh. As Percy Weasley did his best to disperse the crowd, some of whom were crying with mirth. Off you go, off you go. The bell rang 5 minutes ago. Off to class now, he said, shooing some of the younger students away. And you, Malfoy. Harry glanced over, now saw Malfoy stoop and snatch up something. Leering, he showed it to Crabbe and Goyle, and Harry realized he's got Riddle's diary. Give that back, said Harry. Wonder what Potter's written in this, said Malfoy, who obviously hadn't noticed the year on the cover and thought he had Harry's own diary. A hush fell over the onlookers. Ginny was staring from the diary to Harry, looking terrified. Hand it over, Malfoy, said Percy sternly. When I've had a look, said Malfoy, waving the diary tauntingly at Harry. Percy said, as a school prefect. But Harry had lost his temper. He pulled out his wand and shouted, Expelliarmus! And just as Snape had disarmed Lockhart, so Malfoy found the diary shooting out of his hand into the air. Ron, grinning broadly, caught it. Harry, said Percy loudly, no magic in the corridors. I'll have to report this, you know. But Harry didn't care. He got 1 over on Malfoy, and that was worth 5 points. From Gryffindor any day. Malfoy was looking furious, and Ginny passed him to enter her classroom. He yelled spitefully after her. I don't think Potter liked your Valentine much. Ginny covered her face with her hands and ran into class. Snarling, Ron pulled out his wand too, but Harry pulled him away. Ron didn't need to spend the whole charms belching slugs. It wasn't until they reached Professor Flitwick's class that Harry noticed something rather odd about Riddle's diary. So, stop here for a second. So it seems maybe... How did Malfoy know that Ginny wrote that? And is it Ginny or Ginny? I always had that problem before the movies came out. If I was always wondering, is it supposed to be Ginny or Ginny? And I think in the movie it cleared it up, but I already forgot how they pronounced it. But anyway. How did Malfoy know Ginny wrote it? And did she indeed write it, or is he just trying to embarrass her? But it makes sense that she would have wrote it, right? Because she seems a little bit obsessed with Harry. But it is kind of sad because she probably didn't realize it was going to be delivered in, like, front of everybody, embarrassing Harry, and she probably feels terrible. Poor girl. Hey Casey 3, how you doing today? Have you read the Harry Potter books? Have you seen the movies? Alright, Ginny covered her face with her hands and ran into class. It wasn't until they reached Professor Flitwick's class that Harry noticed something rather odd about Riddle's diary. All his other books were drenched in scarlet ink. The diary, however, was as clean as it had been before the ink blot had smashed all over it. He tried to point this out to Ron, but Ron was having trouble with his wand again. Large purple bubbles were blossoming out of the end, and he wasn't much interested in anything else. It seems completely ridiculous that Ron still has this broken wand for, like, pretty much the whole book. And the reason why is because he doesn't want to tell his parents that he broke his wand in the crash, because he already got into trouble for crashing the car and stealing the car. So he's just kind of dealing with it. But I always wondered why Harry didn't just, like, buy him a new wand or something. I mean, I guess it's not really Harry's job, but he could have if he wanted to, probably. Harry went to bed before anyone else in his dormitory that night. This was partly because he didn't think he could stand Fred and George singing, "His eyes are as green as fresh-picked toad," one more time, and partly because he wanted to examine Riddle's diary. He knew that Ron thought he was wasting his time. Harry sat on his four-poster and flicked through the blank pages, not one of which had a trace of scarlet ink on it. Then he pulled a new bottle out of his bedside cabinet, dipped his quill into it, and dropped a blot onto the first page of the diary. The ink shone brightly on the paper for the second, and then, as though it was being sucked into the page, vanished. So this is why she puts that whole little Valentine... Oh, so brilliant of J.K. Rowling. So she has this whole little Valentine adventure thing. One, it's funny, it shows another side of Lockhart just being obnoxious. And it brings, like, the whole teenage awkward times of middle school, relatable awkward times of middle school into the book, right? Because there's this time when, like, you're starting to like boys, girls are starting to like boys, boys are starting to like girls, but they're also still feeling very awkward and don't want to admit their feelings towards each other. They're like 12 right now, so it's this interesting time. They still feel very like cringy when it comes to Valentine's Day, but at the same time, they still are starting to get interested. And as you see here with Harry, mostly the girls are interested in the boys, and the boys don't really care yet to have any romantic relationships with girls. They're still kind of young. So that kind of brings that cool, like, awkward middle school stage into the story, but then it also has the aspect of showing us how Ginny likes Harry, and of course Malfoy's still a jerk, and on top of that, it brings us to this whole idea of ink does not stick to the book, so let's test it out with some ink and see what happens. So wow, with that one little event of that dwarf singing the song, J.K. Rowling has brought in all these relatable, hilarious, and important to the plot moments. So she's such a good writer to be able to do that. And I just like to wave my hand a lot like this, pretend I'm making spells as I talk. Alright. The ink shone brightly on the paper, and though it was being sucked into the page, vanished. Excited, Harry loaded up his quill a second time and wrote, "My name is Harry Potter." The words shone momentarily on the page, and they too sank without a trace. Then at last something happened. Oozing back out of the page in his very own ink came the words Harry had never written. "Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. How did you come by my diary?" These words too faded away, but not before Harry had started to scribble back. Someone tried to flush it down a toilet. He waited eagerly for Riddle's reply. Lucky that I recorded my memories in some more lasting way than ink, but I always knew that there would be those who would not want this diary read. What do you mean? Harry scrawled, blotting the page in his excitement. I mean that this diary holds memories of terrible things, things which were covered up, things which happened at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. That's where I am now, Harry wrote quickly. I'm at Hogwarts and horrible stuff's been happening. Do you know anything about the Chamber of Secrets? His heart was hammering. Riddle's reply came quickly. His writing became untidier, as though he was hurrying to tell all he knew. Of course I know about the Chamber of Secrets. In my day they told us it was a legend, that it did not exist, but this was a lie. In my 5th year, the chamber was opened and a monster attacked several students, finally killing one. I caught the person who opened the chamber and he was expelled, but the headmaster, Professor Dippet, ashamed that such a thing had happened at Hogwarts, forbade me to tell the truth. Professor Dippet was the headmaster? In the movie, Dumbledore was the headmaster. Hey, how are you doing, Fire Guy CJY? Welcome to the stream. How are you doing today? Did I already say that? I think I did say that. Well, how are you doing, Double? Actually, the question I started with at the beginning of the stream is, how are you treating life today? How are you treating life today? Okay. So Professor Dibbit was ashamed that such a thing had happened to Hogwarts and forbade me to tell the truth. The story was given out that the girl had died in a freak accident. They gave me a nice, shiny engraved trophy for my trouble and warned me to keep my mouth shut. But I knew it could happen again. The monster lived on, and the one who had the power to release it was not imprisoned. Ooh, you went on a date? That's fun. And you're fantastic. That's good. Tell me about your date, and also my weekend was... What did I even do? My weekend's good. My weekends are okay, really, honestly. My weekends kind of consist of me sleeping in really late, because I always stream really late on Friday night. and then waking up late, and then going to work pretty much as soon as I wake up, and then working, getting home somewhat like 6 o'clock. 6 to 7 is when I get home. So it's not like early in the evening, but it's not late in the evening. Kind of medium time. Is that a thing? And then I get home, and then I actually have time to do something that I would enjoy, like hang out with my friends. So I think I got to hang out with my friends this weekend. Well, one cool thing was that I didn't have to work Saturday. Of course, it was a last minute thing. They told me like at 1 o'clock on Saturday that I don't have to come into work. So I was just waking up, and it was cool that I didn't have to work, but you know, if I knew a few days in advance that I didn't have to work Saturday, I would have planned to actually have a great Saturday and do something cool that I always wanted to do if I had a weekend off. But since I did not know, I had no time really to plan something, and I just did laundry because that was something I needed to get done. So, yeah. And then I worked Sunday, like the whole day, until like 9:30 at night. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of my weekends, to be honest, because I don't really get to stream because I work all day. I sleep in late, which I hate doing, but I kind of need sleep since I stay up late. And then I get to hang out with friends and family at the end of the day, which I like, but I wish that I didn't have to work on weekends. That's what I'm really trying to say. But it's just how it is at Panera. They already have plenty of people who are willing to work during the week. They don't have many people who are willing to work on the weekend, and since I'm the newest of the bakers, I get chosen to do the weekend, so hooray! Yeah. Anyway. But I did get to hang out with my friends, which was cool, at nighttime, and we watched Cobra Kai. It was good. Into a bar. Cool. Glad you had a good date, and seems like you met her because she lives in the same place as you. So that's cool. That's nice. That will make it very convenient if things work out there. You know, very easy to hang out with each other. Yeah, at least I didn't have to work on Saturday. The good thing about that was that I didn't have time to get my laundry done during the week, and I needed to do laundry. Laundry is the worst. It takes forever, especially when you are at a place that has a laundromat, which sounds like you might be in that same situation, a condo complex. You have to walk to the laundromat, wait for other people who leave their laundry in for hours and forget that they put laundry in, wait for them to figure it out and come back and get their laundry, check back 50 times to see if they finally remember their laundry, eventually get tired of them forgetting that their laundry's there, so you just freaking suck it up and fold their laundry for them, even though you don't know them and you don't want to touch their underwear, but you have to because you don't want to be the jerk who just throws their laundry in a pile of goopiness and let it all get wrinkly. At least that's how I think. I don't know. Is anyone else like that? I feel bad about just throwing their nicely, freshly dried laundry in a pile and letting it get all dirty and wrinkly, so I just fold it for them. And, takes extra time of my day, but it's better than I'd hate for their laundry to get all nasty and wrinkly. It just bugs me. Yeah. Anyway, Harry is discovering more about this t.m.riddle and the Chamber of Secrets, which is really good because we are more than halfway through the book and haven't even solved the riddle, the mystery. So we need to get this thing over with. Come on, Harry, figure it out. You have a good amount of baskets to prevent that from happening? Oh, that's good. That's good. Our laundromat here is only 2 washers and 2 dryers out of all of the people that live here. I don't know how many people live here, but there's probably 100 units at least, maybe 200. So all of us are sharing just 2 things, which hasn't really been that bad because I tend to do my laundry whenever I think most people will not want to do laundry. But it's a little ridiculous. A little ridiculous, just a little bit. But it's cheap. It's the cheapest rent in pretty much all of Nashville, so there you go. There you go. Okay. So the monster lived on, and the person who has the power to release it was not imprisoned. Harry nearly upset his ink bottle in his hurry to write back. It's happening again now. There have been 3 attacks and no one seems to know who's behind them. Who was it last time? I can show you if you like, came Riddle's reply. You don't have to take my word for it. I can take you inside my memory of the night when I caught him. Harry hesitated, his quill suspended over the diary. What did Riddle mean? How could he be taken inside someone else's memory? He glanced nervously at the door to the dormitory, which was growing dark. When he looked back at the diary, he saw fresh words forming. Let me show you. Harry paused for a fraction of a second and then wrote 2 letters. Okay. So here we have Harry writing with his quill. And the pages of the diary began to blow as though caught in a high wind, stopping halfway through the month of June. Mouth hanging open, Harry saw that the little square for June, the 13th, seemed to have turned into a minuscule television screen. His hands trembling slightly, he raised the book to press his eye against the little window, and before he knew what was happening, he was tilting forwards. The window was widening, he felt his body leave his bed, and he was pitched headfirst through the opening in the page into a whirl of color and shadow. You live in a house by yourself, so you don't have that problem. You can do laundry all the time. Yeah. When I lived in California, we had an apartment that had our own laundry for like a year, and it was amazing. And it was a brand new washer and dryer too. It was like a front-loading one that was meant to like save water and only uses a small amount of water. So it was wonderful. It didn't cost very much money because it was water saving, and it cleaned the clothes really well because it was new, not like 500 years old. It was just great. I really liked it, and we could do laundry all the time. And if you had like, let's say you were gonna wear something and then you spilled something on it, you could just wash it really quick. Or if you forgot to wash something that you needed for work, you could wash it really quick. It wasn't like this whole ordeal, like you have to plan on your planner. I'm gonna do my laundry on February 15th at 7 p.m. because that's the time when no one else will be in there, and that's when I have time and I can fit it in my schedule. No, it was just like you could do laundry whenever you felt like it. It was never a big deal. Now laundry is like a huge deal. I don't like it, but you know, it's kind of the thing with apartments, like there's ups and downs. That's one of the downs, but it's cheaper than having a house, and you don't have to fix things yourself. Your laundry lives in the dryer, you wear something out of it, and then it goes in the wash. That's awesome. Yeah, if you have your own, you can live like that too. That's funny. That's totally like a guy thing, I think. I'm assuming you're a guy. I'm assuming your pronoun fire guy because your name is Fire Guy. I could be wrong. I mean, I haven't seen you. I only saw you as a dog, and I was assuming the gender of the dog to be a guy because his name was Harvey and it looked kind of guyish, but it's a mascot god. For all I know, it is not a guy, so I'm sorry for assuming the gender there. But if indeed you are a guy, I would agree that that seems like something guys would do. Bye, Kurusu. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you have a good day. It's gonna be weird when I move to Germany. I'll probably have roommates there. I've been living in my own properties for 7 years. Yeah, that will be weird to have roommates for the first time in 7 years. I think it will be good though. And do they have to wash all their laundry by hand there? Interesting. Ooh, this is a great picture. Look at that. Oh my gosh, I always wonder what it's like to be an artist. I mean, just the hours you spend on one picture. It's amazing. And this, they had to paint this and make it by hand, come up with this idea make it into reality, and they work so hard on it, and it looks so amazing, and it goes into a book, and only a few people, I think, ever appreciate the pictures, really. When I feel this page even, you can almost like feel the paint. I know that's impossible though, because it was probably a reprint, but for some reason this page in particular feels more textured than the others. That's just a great picture. I don't think so. If not, then I've made a big mistake. That's funny. Now, when I lived in China for a year, we had washer and dryers because we were at a school where they bring people from America and other countries to teach English to the Chinese students. So they kind of like, they brought in things that they knew we would be comfortable with, like washers and dryers. But the students, I don't think, had washers and dryers because all the time I would see like lines of clothes hanging outside their dorm rooms. This place called Xinjiang, and it's near this big city called Zhengzhou, which is, I think it's like 2 hours south of Beijing, but I'm not that great at geography, so let me see. I can't remember exactly, but I feel like Beijing is like here, and it's like here, so it's kind of south, but also, what was that? Never east, west, southwest. Geography, everybody. I feel like you mentioned this before. Happy Slappy Time. I feel like this, we've talked about this. I don't know, have we talked about this? I feel like we did, because I remember this Chengdu thing. Yeah, I don't know where that is, but I've heard of it. Is that where the pandas are? Shenzhen or Tokyo? Well, that's not in China. What is in Shenzhen? Tokyo would be cool. I heard it's like extremely expensive though. Harry felt his feet hit solid ground and stood shaking as the blurred shapes around him came suddenly into focus. He knew immediately where he was. This circular room with the sleeping portraits was Dumbledore's office. But it wasn't Dumbledore who was sitting behind the desk. A wizened, frail-looking wizard, bald except for a few wisps of white hair, was reading a letter by candlelight. Harry had never seen this man before. "I'm sorry," he said shakily. "I didn't mean to butt in." But the wizard didn't look up. He continued to read, frowning slightly. Harry drew nearer to his desk and stammered, I'll just go, shall I?" Still the wizard ignored him. He didn't seem to even have heard him. Thinking that the wizard might be deaf, Harry raised his voice. "Sorry I disturbed you. I'll go now," he shouted. The wizard folded up the letter with a sigh, stood up, walked past Harry without glancing at him, and went to draw the curtains at his window. The sky outside the window was ruby red. It seemed to be sunset. The wizard went back to the desk, sat down and twiddled his thumbs, watching the door. Harry looked around the office. No Fawkes the Phoenix, no whirring silver contraptions. This was Hogwarts as Riddle had known it, meaning that this was unknown. This unknown wizard was headmaster, not Dumbledore, and he, Harry, was little more than a phantom, completely invisible to the people 50 years ago. There was a knock on the office door. "Enter," said the old wizard in a feeble voice. A boy of about 16 entered, taking off his pointed hat. A silver prefect's badge was glinting on his chest. He was much taller than Harry, but he too had jet black hair. "Ah, Riddle," said the headmaster. "You wanted to see me, Professor Dippet?" said Riddle. He looked nervous. "Sit down," said Dippet. "I've just been reading the letter you sent me." "Oh," said Riddle. He sat down, gripping his hands together very tightly. I'm very confused. Sorry, this is not the book. I'm very confused. In the movie, it was Professor Dumbledore who was headmaster still of Hogwarts. I did not remember that in the book there was this Professor Dippet who was headmaster. But that makes no sense because of future books, where we will see Professor Dumbledore also being there around this time. And it was 50 years ago? So friggin' how old are these people? So Malfoy's dad is like 66 years old? How does that make sense? Because he... Or no, wait. Malfoy said his dad wasn't there at the time of the Chamber of Secrets. That he was there afterwards. A little bit later. But still, how much later? If he was 10 years later, then he's probably like 56 years old. Which he did not look 56 years old in the movie. And also 56 years old and have a 12-year-old son. It's a little old. I mean, yeah, it depends on the person. Anyway. I feel like J.K. Rowling really plans her books out well, though, so I wonder if, like, I just don't remember the books that well, and maybe later she'll go over why it was Professor Dippet, but later it was Professor Dumbledore. I don't know. I'm very confused. I am very confused, and if anybody knows, you can tell me in the chat and explain it to me. Sit down, said Dippet. I've just been reading the letter you sent me. Oh, said Riddle. He sat down, gripping his hands together very tightly. My dear boy, said Dippet kindly, I cannot possibly let you stay at school over the summer. Surely you want to go home for the holidays. No, said Riddle at once. I'd much rather stay at Hogwarts than go back to that. You live in a Muggle orphanage during the holidays, I believe, said Dippet curiously. Yes, sir, said Riddle, reddening slightly. You are Muggle-born? Half-blood, sir, said Riddle. Muggle father, witch mother. And are both your parents? My mother died just after I was born, sir. They took me to the orphanage. She lived just long enough to name me. Tom, after my father. Marvolo, after my grandfather. Dippet clucked his tongue sympathetically. The thing is, Tom, he sighed, special arrangements might have to be made for you. But in the current circumstances... You mean all these attacks, sir? Said Riddle, and Harry's heart leapt, and he moved closer, scared of missing anything. Precisely. Shenzhen is where my suppliers are for my business. Ooh, what kind of business do you have? Kunming wouldn't be a bad choice either. Kunming. Oh, okay. Is Kunming also in China? Don't know that place, but I have heard of Shenzhen and I have heard of Chengdu. But I don't really know where they are or what's special about them. But I've heard of them. Precisely, said the headmaster. My dear boy, you must see how foolish it would be of me to allow you to remain at the castle when term ends, particularly in the light of the recent tragedy, the death of that poor little girl. You will be safer by far at your orphanage. As a matter of fact, the Ministry of Magic is even now talking about closing the school. We are nowhere nearer locating the source of all this unpleasantness. Riddle's eyes had widened. Sir, if the person was caught, if all of it stopped... What do you mean? Said Dippet with a squeak in his voice, sitting up on his chair. Riddle, do you mean you know something about these attacks? No, sir, said Riddle quickly. But Harry was sure it was the same sort of no that he himself had given Dumbledore. Dippet sank back, looking faintly disappointed. You may go, Tom. Riddle slid off his chair and stomped out of the room. Harry followed him. Down the moving spiral staircase they went, emerging next to the gargoyle in the darkening corridor. Riddle stopped, and so did Harry, watching him. Harry could tell that Riddle was doing some serious thinking. He was biting his lip, his forehead furrowed. Then, as though he suddenly reached a decision, he hurried off, Harry gliding noiselessly behind him. They didn't see another person until they reached the entrance hall, when a tall wizard with long, sweeping auburn hair and beard called to Riddle from the marble staircase. You run an eBay and an Etsy store with retro gamer items? What? That's cool. So these are items that you have made, you make yourself, or you buy them and you sell them? How did you come up with this idea? It's very Creative. Alright, so there's this other younger wizard with red hair? Oh, no, auburn hair. Okay. What? Oh, how do I want to do this? What are you doing wandering around this late, Tom? Harry gaped at the wizard. He was none other than a 50-year younger Dumbledore. I had to see the headmaster, sir, said Riddle. Oh, okay, so I don't think they made that clear in the movie, but in the book, Dumbledore is just a something. We'll assume teacher, we'll assume professor. Not the headmaster yet, when Riddle, this person Riddle, is at school. Well, hurry off to bed, said Dumbledore, giving Riddle exactly the kind of penetrating stare Harry knew so well. Best not to roam the corridors these days, not since... He sighed heavily, bade Riddle good night and strode off. Riddle watched him out of sight and then, moving quickly, headed straight down the stone steps to the dungeons with Harry in hot pursuit. But to Harry's disappointment, Riddle led him not into a hidden passageway or secret tunnel, but the very dungeon in which Harry had potioned the Snape. The torches hadn't been lit, and when Riddle pushed the door almost closed, Harry could only just see Riddle standing stock still by the door, watching the passage outside. It felt to Harry that they were there for at least an hour. All he could see was the figure of Riddle at the door, staring through the crack, waiting like a statue, and just when Harry had stopped feeling expectant and tense, and started wishing he could return to the present, he heard something move beyond the door. Someone was creeping along the passage. He heard whoever it was pass the dungeon where he and Riddle were hidden. Riddle, quiet as a shadow, edged through the door and followed, Harry tiptoeing behind him, forgetting that he couldn't be heard. For perhaps 5 minutes they followed the footsteps, until Riddle stopped suddenly, his head inclined in the direction of new noises. Harry heard a door creak open, and then someone speaking in a hoarse whisper. Come on, gotta get you out of here. Come on now, in the box. There was something familiar about that voice. Riddle suddenly jumped around the corner. Harry stepped out behind him. He could see the dark outline of a huge boy who was crouching in front of an open door, a very large box next to him. Evening, Rubius, said Riddle sharply. The boy slammed the door shut and stood up. What you doing down here, Tom? Riddle stepped closer. It's all over, he said. I'm going to have to turn you in, Rubius. They're talking about closing Hogwarts if the attacks don't stop. What are you... I don't think you meant to kill anyone, but monsters don't make good pets. I suppose you just let it out for exercise and... It never killed no one, said the large boy, backing against the closed door. From behind him, Harry could hear a funny rustling and clicking. Come on, Rubius, said Riddle, moving yet closer. The dead girl's parents will be here tomorrow. The least Hogwarts can do is make sure that the thing that killed their daughter is slaughtered. It wasn't him, roared the boy, his voice echoing the dark passage. He wouldn't, he never. Stand aside, said Riddle, drawing out his wand. His spell lit the corridor with a sudden flaming light. The door behind the large door flew open. Behind the large boy flew open with such force it knocked him into the wall opposite, and out of it came something that made Harry let out a long, piercing scream that no one but him seemed to hear. Nostalgia. Oh, you're looking for things you wanted to buy and you thought you could make some money? You've done some designs for them? Oh, cool. And you hired an artist? Well, that's cool. That's fun. You'll have to share your page with me on the Discord. Put it in the Discord somewhere. A vast, low-slung, hairy body and a tangle of black legs, a gleam of many eyes, and a pair of razor-sharp pincers. Riddle raised his wand again, but he was too late. The thing bowled over him as it scuttled away, tearing up the corridor and out of sight. Riddle scrambled to his feet, looking after it. He raised his wand, but the huge boy leapt on him, seized his wand, and threw him back down, yelling, "No!" The scene whirled. The darkness became complete. Harry felt himself falling, and with a crash, he landed spread-eagled on his four-poster in the Gryffindor dormitory, Riddle's diary lying open on his stomach. Before he had time to regain his breath, the dormitory opened and Ron came in. "There you are," he said. Harry sat up. He was sweating and shaking. What's up?" said Ron, looking at him with concern. "It was Hagrid, Ron. Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago." Dun dun dun. Oh. Who did they think was responsible for stealing the Sorcerer's Stone last book? They don't have the best track record of figuring out these mysteries. Anyway, let's see what time it is. 8:30. Alright, so that is chapter 13, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So it seems that this diary that they found belonging to some person named T.M. Riddle actually is kind of magical and has all of the memories of this person hidden in the diary. And according to his memory, Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets and unintentionally set out a monster on the school, which is a little bit upsetting. But it doesn't seem like he is really guilty of being mean or evil or doing something bad, just maybe he wasn't very responsible with one of his pets. We do know that he likes to keep pets that are not necessarily the safest or best idea. Remember Norbert the dragon? That was not that safe. So, yeah. Also, there was some kind of Professor Dippet, which was the old headmaster, and Dumbledore taught school while this kid, T.m. Riddle, was a student. So yeah, that's chapter 13 of the Chamber of Secrets. Alright,